there's something usually they mention with that order, and that is, like we said, the hilf. But I will jump that and then come back to it because of the importance of it. We need to sit there and speak about it a bit. So, the Prophet ﷺ, the job he had as a young man, he used to be a shepherd. At this age, the Prophet ﷺ, he was a shepherd. A shepherd is someone who takes care of sheep and goats. And he was a shepherd for the tribe of Sa'd, Banu Sa'd in Mecca. And this is mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَا بَعَثَ نَبِيًّا إِلَّا وَقَدْ رَاعَ الْغَنَمِ, or كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, that Allah has not sent any prophet except that that prophet was once a shepherd. And subhanAllah, in this hadith is very important. Allah did not send any prophet or messenger except that prophet or messenger, when they were younger, or some of them even after they were prophets, they took care of animals, specifically sheep and goat. Now there's a lot of scientific things we can speak about that, but today is not the day. But just to touch on that, maybe some of you can relate to that because you grew up somewhere where you saw people taking care of sheep and goats. Now sheep and goats are difficult to take care of. You know, in old classical English, when your child is notorious, they call him what? Huh? No. They say he's a billy goat. That's old classical English. Why? Because the billy goat is that young male goat. They don't listen. Those ones, they have a mind on their own. They are nice though. They are not violent. And that's the difference between those who take care of camels and cattle, cows, and the difference between those who take care of ghanam, meaning sheep and goats. So whoever gets enough training of taking care of sheep and goats, he is qualified to lead man, meaning humankind. Because they are of the humankind, most of them, their mind are just like the sheep and goat. Yes. You call him sheeple maybe. But he saw CNN said this today, that's his religion now. He saw today in the metro it said that, that's the world to him now. He saw someone say this on a text message on WhatsApp, that's what is happening now. That has become his aqidah. Human beings were like that. So the prophets of Allah trained them that they have to take care of animals first. You know the benefit of that? That's number one. Number two, a sabr, patience. Patience. That job is a job of patience. You can imagine driving a flock of 50, 100 animals. Maybe some of you grew up doing that or you saw people doing that. You can relate to it. Who saw that in his childhood? I took care of a few goats. You can appreciate that if you saw it. Number three, and this is a hadith in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, As-sakina wal-waqar, tranquility and calmness. Tranquility and calmness, meaning in behavior. It is in those who take care of ghanam, those who take care of sheep and goats. Wal-ghilza, and toughness. Toughness, fil faddadin, it is in the faddadin, those who take care of camels. The camel in Arabic, in the Prophet ﷺ says, the camel is a shaitan. The camel is a shaitan. You know the meaning of shaitan in Arabic? In English, you can loosely translate it as rebellious. Shaitana meaning he doesn't listen, he doesn't follow the order. That's why the shaitan is called shaitan. Rebellious. The camel is rebellious. He has a mind on its own. That is why those who take care of camels, they are tough people. This is a hadith in Sahih Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ said that. Tough-hearted people. Tough-hearted people. While those who take care of sheep and goats, they are soft people, calm people. So Allah made all of His prophets go through that. That is why when they stood in front of their people and they called them to Islam, you see how much harm they faced? You see how much harm they faced? All the prophets of Allah. But they had gone through that necessary preparation, if you want to call it training, psychologically and physically. So the Prophet ﷺ, he used to earn an income by taking care of the sheep and goats of Banu Sa'ad in Mecca. And here then comes the story when he was around 25 years of age. Khadija bint Khuwaylid radiyallahu anha, she had heard of this young man. Now the Prophet ﷺ is 25. And 25 then, just like even today in other societies, not in the West per se, or generally speaking, 25 is a man and well known in the community. 25 is someone matured. The Prophet ﷺ, they knew him because of what? Number one, la. Huh? No. They knew him because of what? Because of his family. They knew him first and foremost because of who he is. Who is he? Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. Who is he under? His uncle Abu Talib. He's one of the chiefs of the Quraysh. Who was his grandfather? Abdul Muttalib, the greater chief of the Quraysh. That's how they knew him first and foremost. That's how they knew him. And we'll speak about this in the next session when we discuss the prophethood. That's how they knew him first. Secondly, now they knew him of who he was as a person. He was of exemplary character. Number one, he did not mingle with them in all that obscenity we discussed last week. All of those obscenities, he was not part of that. Now, if you live in a society, or when you went to college or university, and everybody's partying, and everybody's, breaking it down, as we say today, and you ain't showing up there, not once, every time, people notice you or not. They notice you. And they might call you names because you're not doing the same sins with them. He's a weirdo. Okay. But I'm going to Jannah, inshallah. You're going to the hellfire because I'm not doing the sins with you. That's fine if you call me a name. So they notice him because of that also. He's not in the binge drinking, pubs, alcohol drinking. He doesn't taste it. In the orgies they used to have, and all that prostitution, he is not close to it. Riba dealing and stealing from the weak people, he never did that. So they noticed him. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he doesn't do these things, you know that. Muhammad doesn't do these things. They knew that first. Now next, to complete his image, he had all the beautiful qualities now. So you can have beautiful qualities, but at the same time you have these bad qualities. People, which one would they notice most? That's how human beings are, or most. So he first did not have any of those bad qualities, and that created an image already. And that's what we said. Allah opened his chest and removed the portion of shaitan. That was from the sins, especially the major sins, and also, of course, first and foremost is the kufr they used to commit. So they used to slaughter for their idols. He's not even close to that. He doesn't eat that meat. They go begging for rain to the idols. He is not doing that. So he stood out, him and the few others. On top of that, now we can say to complete, to perfect his exemplary character, personality, he had all these beautiful qualities. Number one, even though most of them had this, we spoke about this before, but he perfected it to the level of a human being. Truthfulness. He doesn't lie. He doesn't lie. Number two, which was something they did not have. Kana aminun. He was trustworthy. Do you brothers understand the difference between truthful and trustworthy? They're not the same thing. What's the difference? Afwan. I'm not hearing someone speak. Is it you? Yes. What is the difference between truthful, sadiq, and amin, trustworthy? No. It's very simple. Ahsant. Truthful is in the words, the speech he says. Trustworthy is with people's property and people's honor also. So people's property, he was trustworthy. In English you say trustworthy, meaning he can be trusted. So if you brought your gold, your silver, for him to hold it for you, he will hold it for you, and when you come back, he gives you full amount, nothing reduced. Trustworthy with people's honor. You say to him, this is my family, please take care of them. He will take care of them. Truthful is in the speech. He doesn't cheat, doesn't lie, doesn't fraud, doesn't steal. All of that now is truthful and trustworthy. So they knew him of this. Apart from knowing him of his family, he stood out. Knowing him, he does not participate in the evil things which they do. And number three, he stood out that he has perfect qualities, beautiful manners. Now this combination, Ikhwani, it made him special. He was not someone who was not unnoticed. See, someone could grow up, he has good qualities, but he's unnoticed because nobody knows him. But the Prophet ﷺ, no, he was very much noticed because of these three things. So Khadija radiallahu anha, she heard of this young man's reputation, and she was a woman who was rich. She was a businesswoman dealing in trade. Now this story, to be honest, I tried to search. I did not find whether it is authentic or not. But all of the books of Seerah, they mention this story of Khadija charging him with her wealth for him to do business with. Now whether he went to Sham or not, Allahu A'lam. Allahu A'lam. But he did do business for Khadija, and he was very profitable. And he was accompanied by the servant of Khadija, the employee of Khadija called Maysara. When Maysara came back and informed Khadija of this man's personality, because Khadija saw the numbers already. She saw the numbers already. Profit margin, exceptional. You know, profit margin exceptional. No questions in that. But when Maysara now came and gave back the report of the man himself, trustworthy, gentle, humble, kind, speaks the truth, very friendly. Khadija radiallahu anha, was she a widower or was she not married yet? She was a widower. She had been married before. She, as the smart, intelligent woman she was, saw the opportunity of getting married to this young man. So she sent members of her family, and they mentioned it is her cousin or so, Nafisa, her name is, if I'm not wrong, to send word to the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the marriage was done. The two families, they met and they got married. Happily ever after? Yes, because they end up in Jannah. So there's no better than happily ever after than that. How old was the Prophet? We said around 25. How old was Khadija? The riwayah of Ibn Ishaq, Muhammad ibn Ishaq, and we said he is the Shaikh of the all people in terms of Seerah. It says she was 28. I'm sorry again to break your hearts. You've been lied to all your life. Not necessarily. She was 28. And Shaykh, I think it's Dr. Akram al-Umari, he says, and this makes more sense because she bore for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam how many children? 6 children. What are the chances she was 28? What are the chances she was 40? Okay. And we know that she died, she lived with the Prophet ﷺ for 10 years, exactly 10 years. So the chances that she gave birth when she was 40 to 50, that many times, Allahu A'lam. The riwayah of Al-Waqidi, and Al-Waqidi is someone who's extremely weak in narrations of hadith. In fact, he's matruk. People don't even take his narrations. He's the one who narrated that, even though in terms of Seerah, he has one of the best books, Maghazi of Al-Waqidi. He's the one who brought the narration that she was 40. But in any way, and in both narrations, she was older than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she was previously married. So all you brothers there and sisters out there, the young ones and the parents, please listen to me. As your imam, not as someone who knows better, no. As your imam, who marital problems come back to. Islamically, there is nothing wrong with a man getting married, number one, to a woman who was previously married. There is nothing wrong. Even though it is recommended to get married to a woman who was not previously married. That's what the Prophet ﷺ recommended himself. But if someone found a woman who was charming, elegant, beautiful, and has deen, first and foremost, in akhlaq, then there's nothing wrong with that. And the story of Jabir radiallahu anhu is another proof of that. Jabir was a very young man. In the Sahih of Imam Muslim or Bukhari? I think it's Muslim. Bukhari, afwan, it's Bukhari. Jabir was a very young man. His father was killed as a shaheed in the battle of Uhud. One day the Prophet ﷺ and his father left a lot of debts, by the way, he had to pay. The Prophet ﷺ saw him, he was shining. He had color on his beard and said, Jabir, what happened? He said, Tazawwajta Rasulullah, I got married. That's another thing to learn. The Sahaba, Ikhwani, they used to get married and they didn't invite the Prophet ﷺ. They never had this idea that if I get married, I have to invite everybody. The Shaykh of the masjid is the first one. No. You invite who you can, that's it. The Prophet ﷺ never took it to offense. You got married. Then he asked, Athayyibun am bikrun? He got married to a woman who was previously married or she was not married before. Qala thayyib. He says, no, she was previously married. And the Prophet ﷺ said to Jabir, Why didn't you get married to a bikr, a woman who was not married before? That's what he used to recommend. And Jabir, because he was someone who was smart young man, he said, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, you know my father died. And he left behind with me, I have 10 sisters. Not 10 brothers, 10 sisters. If I brought another young woman who was not married before and got married to her, it will be 11 now. So I got married to an older, mature woman so she can take care of them. And the Prophet ﷺ made dua for him. You see that? You see that? Some of you, I don't know where you're getting these ideas. You're going to 30, 33, 34, 39, 42. You have not been married in your life. And you come, Shaikh, you know, yes, I want to get married. But she cannot be above 23. Akhi, you're 42. You know, we need to stop this regressive thinking. To be honest, it's pretty regressive. That's number one. And number two, this idea of if a woman was previously married, we cannot get married to her. We need to lose this idea. The Sahaba radiallahu anhu, you see, this is one story. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is the best example. The Sahaba, when a woman, her husband passed away, they would rush to go and propose to her once her iddah ends. They would compete in that because these were righteous women. They would not let the righteous women stay single. Why? To benefit themselves, because you're getting married to a woman who's going to make your deen stronger, your children better. And for her also. We have left these sunnahs, ikhwani. That's why our societal problems are great. We pray, alhamdulillah, we pray. Jum'ah is full, Jum'ah is full. We listen to lectures on YouTube, yes. But societal problems, we don't want to practice what the Prophet ﷺ taught us how to practice, how to live a society. Getting married to more than one woman, if you can have the conditions, you can do it. You can take care of one family. You have to do it. In some countries it has reached a level you have to, because there's no men. There's no men. A quarter of the population of men have been killed in war. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. And that's what the Sahaba used to do. These are solutions for societal problems. But the enemies of Islam, they know these are the solutions, so they paint the solutions and mar them and tar them with dirt and bad propaganda to make you stay away from them. And the Muslims have taken this for so many years. Now the Muslim who wants to do something good, he is the one who's the villain, he's the one who point fingers at. We need to wake up. We need to wake up. We need to wake up. So these two things. So in whatever narration we choose, she was older than the Prophet ﷺ and she was married before. So they got married, and the tribe of Banu Hashim, the Prophet ﷺ's tribe, and Mudar, they met, and the dowry he gave ﷺ was 20 camels. This is what is mentioned. Like I said, this narration, I did not find the authenticity of it or not, Allahu A'lam. But he gave 20 camels, that's what they say. Allahu A'lam, he gave it from his wealth, which I highly doubt, because the Prophet ﷺ was not rich. Probably it was his uncles who gave for him, Allahu A'lam. Now we'll come back to this later on. The status of Khadija. One of the things which happened here, Khwani, also, just before this, is Hilf al-Fudul. Now Hilf is a treaty, an agreement, a pact, where people come around and they agree to do something. It's called a Hilf, meaning you take an oath, we're going to do this and that. Now Hilf al-Fudul, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, شهدت الحلف في بيت عبد الله بن جدعان. I witnessed the treaty, the pact which was made in the house of Abdullah ibn Jad'an. أكمل. حمر النعم أحسنت. And I would not have loved to substitute my experience of that with the red camels. He said the red camels is the best property of the Arabs. He said I wouldn't give up that experience for anything else. This was before he is a prophet. This was when he is in his 20s. What is this hilf? What is this pact? What is this treaty? Like we mentioned last week, Ikhwani, the stronger, more powerful, richer tribal men of the Quraysh and others, they used to eat and steal and oppress the weaker people in terms of their wealth and whatever they owned. So one day, it says a man from the tribe of Zubayd, and he was doing trade in Mecca to Al-As ibn Wa'il. And Al-As ibn Wa'il, he wanted to steal from him. He didn't want to give back his money, what he owed. So this man, he went on top of the mountain and called out about the injustices which he was suffering. Upon that, the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Az-Zubair ibn Abdul Muttalib, he called the other tribes. He called the other tribal men from the other tribes, and he said, we have to stand up for these kind of people. It is not proper for the weak ones to be oppressed, and we are here. And that is how the treaty or the pact or the convention or the agreement, whatever you want to call it, the hilf of Al-Fudul, it came about. So he called from the men of Quraysh, obviously themselves, Banu Kinana, Quraysh, and who? Who did he call? It was himself, the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the other tribal men also from Bani Abdiddar, Bani Abdul Munaf, which is the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and their cousins from Abdiddar. And this is the only treaty the Prophet ﷺ, he witnessed. It's the only treaty he witnessed. What is the treaty about again, Umar? The underprivileged, those who people are stealing from, that they will not that happen. The higher class people are stealing from the lower people. When they do trade with them, they don't give them back what is due. They said, we cannot stand and watch this. So they made a pact that we will stand up for the rights of the weak. We'll stand up for the rights of the weak. That's what the treaty was for. Now, was the Prophet ﷺ a prophet at this time? He was not. But he said, the Prophet ﷺ, after he was a prophet, he said these words. He says, I witnessed, I was there in that house. Remember I told you that? That's how he was known. He was known for what? Number one, his family. Number two, he did not participate in the evil things they did. So which is the opposite of it is true, which is what? He stood up for what is right. You're oppressing these people, now we're going to stand up for them. I have to be part of that. So he was there. And he says, now after being a prophet. So he's referring to a treaty which he made back then with people who are what? Kuffar. He says, I would not give